I'm Chip Townsend, and this is the Team Chip Podcast. The dad honestly looked at me and said, he's going to be an MMA fighter and he's going to be in my retirement someday. As martial artists, we should be very attuned to this. Like, okay, they're pretty frazzled. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. And yes, it's uncomfortable when a parent is upset or someone's kind of getting in your face. All right, guys, welcome back to the Team Chip Podcast. Man, I am excited to be here. This is a tough topic today. We're going to talk a little bit about handling parent conflict like a pro. Conflict is something that all martial arts school owners and operators, coaches, leaders, business operators are going to deal with at some point in time. Today, the perspective is going to be parent conflict. And man, I was hesitant to use the word conflict because that sounds like, bang, a fight. It's not really a fight, but a lot of times, martial arts is about discipline, accountability, growth. And, sometimes parents may not see eye to eye with how we do things. Maybe they just don't have an understanding. They don't understand the expectations around maybe testings or the tournaments or, how you correct their child in class or all these things. And it's super important, so important that we handle these things with professionalism, confidence, with grace, some humility, but at the same time, without compromising our standards. We've got to be, I think back to the words of my mom. She just rings in my head all the time. Firm, but fair. So just wanted to kind of jump in here and do a quick talk on, conflict and parent conflict and kind of why. So why, why does parent conflict happen? Emotional investment. We'll just start there. So, and what do I mean by that? We love our kids so much. As a parent, I can speak to this directly. I mean, I have 3 beautiful kids. Now I've got grandkids, and we love our kids so much. So much that we can get kind of blinded by the emotion, I don't know. I really hate this term in ways. I hate to use the word hate, but I just dislike this term. But our mama bear can kick in, like, whoa, we're going to be overprotective and all these things. We want them to succeed so bad that anything that doesn't go their way or the way we think it should go their way can cause us to become emotional. And, we've talked about this before, but emotion and logic are like oil and water. They don't go together, so emotional investment. And I wouldn't say overinvestment. I don't think you can ever overinvest in your kids, but we've got to be cautious that we are objective and we get both sides of the story and we really understand what's going on before we make snap decisions or we make, have a knee-jerk reaction that we're going to regret. So emotional investment can be an issue, lack of understanding, not grasping the culture of martial arts, the rank systems or the accountability that's expected. Maybe not understanding the expectations of the instructor or, and I hate to say this, I've been down this road before. Maybe a parent only hears a part of a conversation. I can't tell you how many times a parent conflict has come up, and whenever we sit down and kind of have a conversation, they realize, oh. So what I mean by that is lack of understanding. One time, I don't remember the exact details, probably close to 30 years ago, I had a young student. He was a junior black belt, and he was having some trouble. He fell and got the wind knocked out of him or something. I had him on the mat doing some takedowns and he had been struggling for a little bit, and I'd had to have a talk with him a couple of times about it. And at one point I just said, hey bud, go over and get a drink of water, take a deep breath and come back and get in line. Let's keep going with this drill. You're going to be okay. He wasn't hurt and I knew it, but he was just having a struggle and he was teary eyed. Well, his mom walked in about the time I just said, hey, go to the water fountain. And we finished up the class. He does fine. He kind of gets over the hump and we work our way through it. And then later that night, I got a phone call from that mom and she was irate and just lit into me about, don't you ever treat my kid like that again. And just rah, 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 rah. So I just sat back and listened. Anyway, only hearing part of the conversation, just lack of understanding here. And I said, ma'am, I said, when I got the opportunity, I said, can I say some things? And yes. And I said, did you see this happen? And explained to her what had initiated the struggle. Did you hear this part of the conversation when I explained this to him and we talked through this piece? No, I did not. Did you see this? No. Did you hear this? I did not. Okay. So those are the three things that happened prior to you walking in and me sending him to the water fountain. And immediately she was like, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. He didn't tell me that part. So lack of understanding, lack of knowing the full story and kind of what's going on. And super good family, stayed with us for years, never had another problem from them. But it was, for lack of better words, kind of one of those mama bear moments. Just got all, pretty emotional, didn't fully see the whole picture and made kind of a snap judgment, called me and went off on me about it. And I was like, ma'am, I let her vent. I let her just chew me out and just said, hey, did you see this, this, and this? And oh my gosh, Chip, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's okay. So anyway, lack of understanding can be a problem. Emotional investment, let our emotions get in the way and we get emotional before we are objective. A lack of understanding, again, cultures, expectations, all these different things, or lack of understanding what happened in that scenario. And maybe sometimes on the other side of the coin, there can be some unrealistic expectations. Now, I've seen this before too. Some people just expect their kid to be the best and be at the front no matter what every time. I would say this one is much more rare, but it can happen. A quick example of that is probably 11 years ago. I had a young man about 8 years old, 9 years old, something like that. He's probably about 8, 9, 10 months into the program based on the rank he was at that point. And he was a good kid, a hard worker. And one day the dad comes into the office and he's like, hey, can I talk to you? And I said, sure, come on in, let's have a seat. And we're talking. And he wasn't mad, but he's like, well, why isn't he doing this yet and doing that? And kind of questioning some of the things I'm doing in the class. And so as we carried on the conversation, again, kind of speaking to unreal expectations, I said, kind of where are you coming from with this? And, what are you thinking? What do you expect from him? And the dad honestly looked at me and said, he's going to be an MMA fighter and he's going to be in my retirement someday. I was dumbfounded. And so he and I had a real kind of heart-to-heart talk. That kid ended up staying with me for, probably another year. And like a lot of kids, fell off the wagon. Parent support wasn't there, but the expectation was just off the chart for this kid too by the dad. And the dad was putting unbelievable weight and pressure on this kid at like 8, 9 years old. It was unbelievable. So it caused a bit of a conflict between he and I, but we were able to sit and talk through that. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but so those are kind of three key things, this over emotional investment, lack of understanding what's going on, unrealistic expectations. And, there's some areas in the martial arts school where these conflicts can come up, I've already alluded to them, but like testing, why did my kid not get approved for belt testing? Or, he just works or she just works so hard. Why are they not being, allowed to move forward or progress? Or, maybe there was, I've already alluded to this one, but like a discipline issue, I don't like how you corrected my child today, or, I don't like what that instructor said, or, made my kid do too many push-ups or whatever that was, tournament, that judge was unfair. My kid should have won that division. And I know they did. They just did such so much of a better job. And, there's all kinds of reasons these parent conflicts come up, and it could be back to this over expectation of, well, why is my kid not in the advanced program yet? Or why is my kid not getting the opportunity to step onto the leadership team yet? Or things like that. There can be, billing issues, we took, 2 weeks off. Why did we get billed for a full month? And anyway, conflict can come out of all different places with your parents inside the school. And obviously, prevention is the best medicine. We don't want to ever have conflict. And again, I really kind of hate to use the word conflict. Maybe it's just lack of understanding or a disagreement and how things are going. So when a parent approaches you and they're upset, right? What's our best way to respond? Man, and that's tough. How do we define upset? No, like how upset are they? Well, we're assuming they're probably a little angry inside. Maybe they're showing it. Maybe their language is showing it, their body, their posture, etc. And as martial artists, we should be very attuned to this. Like, okay, they're pretty frazzled. I had a grandfather one time get upset with me over something in a class, and I really don't remember exactly what it was, but he followed me into my office and he was absolutely irate. A big man, much, much older than me. And he was like angry, trying to get kind of up in my face. And so I just backed away from him and I just sat down on the desk and tried to kind of bring things down. So you got to be attuned to what's going on. And he and I ended up having a nice conversation, and he cooled off and understood after what was going on, and everything was great. Grandson stayed with us for years as well. But these things come up, man, and they will slap you when you least expect it sometimes. But so the first thing is stay calm, take a deep breath. And as a martial artist, that should be easy for us. We teach and work on all the time. Be comfortable being uncomfortable. And yes, it's uncomfortable when a parent is upset or someone's kind of getting in your face. Do not match their emotions. Maintain composure, take a deep breath, and sometimes even physically just kind of lower yourself a little bit. And what I mean is don't put yourself in a bad place, but just sit down if the opportunity arises and let them stand. And then in a minute, they'll begin to kind of come down. So you can physically do some things to de-escalate a little bit. Listen first. I don't know if you caught what I said a while ago. When that mom called me and she was really upset, I just sat and let her go. I didn't argue. I didn't try to edge my voice in. And I'm telling you, it was hard. It was really hard. And I just let her go until she kind of ran out of steam. Like she had said everything she needed to say. And then I asked permission. Can I say something here? Yeah. And of course she's mad. Yes. Okay. Did you see? So listen, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen twice as much, at least twice as much as you talk, right? Sometimes, believe it or not, they just want to be heard. They just need to vent a little bit and they'll kind of calm down on their own. Do not take these things personally. Sometimes they're frustrated with themselves, their day at work, their job. Sometimes they're a little frustrated with their kid. Maybe they are frustrated with you. But just be calm and don't take that personal, because I guarantee you've been frustrated with someone because you only caught part of a conversation or you didn't quite understand an expectation. So remember, that happens both ways. We need to be aware and need to be calm, but don't let it be personal. They're not trying to attack you personally. They're just trying to get clarity and they don't know how to approach it. They don't know what the steps are. And so they think just getting angry and protecting my kid's the only thing here, when really they shouldn't have anything to protect their kid from. We love those kids I don't know if it's as much as them, but darn close, right? Use your empathy. Don't make excuses. Acknowledge their feelings. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I understand, but stay firm to your policies. Remember what I said earlier, firm but fair. So stay calm and professional. Listen first and listen well. Don't take it personal, and be empathetic to the situation. Try to pick up on the cues, understand where they're coming from, and be patient. Be very patient. And we should be pillars of patience as martial artists. Courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, indomitable spirit, humility, all these things that we teach all the time. We should be pillars of that. We should personify that in every way. So, how do we turn that and flip that kind of into a positive experience? And I can't promise you can, and it's very, very challenging and very difficult. But before it comes up as prevention, we should have educated the parents and the audience very well, kind of on those expectations, on those rules for that competition or tournament, on, how testing for a belt rank or how that works and kind of what the expectations are. We need to make sure that we're communicating heavily on the front end so that people aren't surprised. Our emotions get out of control a lot of times when we get shocked by something. I walk around the corner and you spook me, my emotions kick in. Fear, and it very quickly turns into anger sometimes. Well, it's kind of the same thing. When they get shocked because we haven't communicated with them, we shock them into emotion, right? And so we need to be careful with that. We just need to make sure that we, early on as a preventative tool, are clear on these things. But the other side is in that moment, we need to educate them. And I don't mean for that to sound condescending, but we need to educate them on what the expectation was, what the standard was, why that situation played out the way it did, and try to do it in a very calm and graceful way. We need to offer solutions and not arguments. Provide, like constructive next steps. What are the next things we can do, as opposed to debating, right, wrong, or what happened here? What are the next steps we can take to get past this and cool this situation? And I will say right here, whenever many times in conflicting situations, whether it be a student or parent, there's a lot of different levels, but even with parents, once we begin to kind of peak the heel of that and kind of come down the other side, and we're getting on the same page, getting some common ground, I'll remind the parents, in the best relationships in the world, and I think this is powerful, the true test of the relationship is, how do we come out the other side of a tough time? And if there's good trust and good respect both ways, even though we've had a conflict, we should be able to come out the other side really even better and have a better understanding for each other and have maybe more respect than we did before. You respect me for having firm boundaries and standing my ground. I respect you for maybe not understanding and coming and being willing to question. Because sometimes, as opposed to conflict, many people run from conflict. They don't understand something. We haven't communicated it well up front. They feel stressed about something that happened with their kid. They just bolt. You don't get the chance to talk to them. So honestly, if you get to have parent conflict, it's a great experience. It's a learning opportunity, but it also shows they care enough to come in and challenge it so they can get on the same page or not, right? So have respect for that. We need to gain respect out of this. Make sure you know when to stand your ground. There are some things that are just non-negotiable in our school. Respect is non-negotiable. Hard work and effort, following our policies, wearing the correct attire and making sure that you've, checked the correct boxes. Although I hate the concept of box checking, but you've checked the correct boxes. You've had all the classes you need to have, and you've learned the techniques and earned your stripes or whatever. Those are non-negotiables. These things have to be done before you can progress to the next level, and respect has to be in place. If you want respect from us, you must give respect as well. So make sure that we know when to stand our ground. So educate the parent, offer solutions, not arguments, and know, when to stand your ground. So I've already talked about this, but prevention is the best medicine. I'm going to say it again. Set your expectations earlier. Make sure that parents understand their testing requirements, the discipline policies, ranking criteria from day one, the rules of the tournament, of the competition. Just I know I beat this over the head, but two countries side by side will fight when they don't communicate. And so up front, preload them. And it's hard because we don't want to have them drinking from a fire hydrant and trying to explain too much too fast. But we need to make sure people understand what's going on. And make sure you communicate clearly and often. Regular updates, emails, text blast through your CRM. And if you have the bandwidth and ability, personal meetings or meetings with different cohort groups inside your school. Maybe your advanced students come together to meet to discuss something, or to, use your social media, your Facebook, your Instagram, your, TikTok, whatever it is that you're using in your school. Use those to continually communicate and be clear about everything that's going on. Another thing you can do is create a parent handbook, a written guide with just the fundamental expectations and rules and guidance for what's going on. And even the rank structures, a lot you can do with that. But again, we're kind of talking prevention up front. Make sure that these things are happening. And, how can we make sure that parents stay on the same page with us for the long term? It's encourage parent involvement. Man, some of the best students we have, their parents are students as well. And not only that, that's an amazing retention tool, because when the parent gets involved, the kid's involved, now it's a family activity. There's more accountability. You're less likely to see them drop out. But when I say parent engagement, don't let them be so engaged that they're coaching from the sideline and distracting classes, but let them be engaged without interfering. And what that is we encourage the parents all the time to clap for the kids or give the kids a yell because the kids are working hard, things like that, but encourage involvement. The more the parent feels involved and the more they get to be engaged in what's going on, maybe ask them to volunteer to help run activities around the school, a parent's night out, or just different things, or you're running a tournament, ask them to be timekeepers, or just different things you can do to engage them and have them involved. The more involved they are, the more likely you'll stay on the same page for the long term. Really work hard to build strong relationships. A positive rapport with the parents, makes handling that conflict so much easier. And things that you can do that are so simple is, please hear me. I'm not preaching at you, but these are things I need to work on. But, make sure when you walk in the school for the afternoon, if there's already parents in the building, go just give a high five and say hi to the parents, or a handshake, whatever is appropriate for your culture. But make sure you're recognizing people and just saying hi. Man, I'm so happy to see you today. Man, we're blessed you're here. Just make sure that people feel welcome and you're connecting. Another thing that does is if they do have questions or issues, instead of going home and stewing on it for 3 nights and being so mad they can't see straight when they come to see you, when you do have these small interactions, it gives them a chance right there just to ask a question like, hey, I saw this yesterday and I wasn't real sure what to think about it. Okay, cool. Well, let's talk about that scenario, or let's talk about that expectation or that rule or requirement or whatever, and help them. But remember, conflict at the end of the day is going to be inevitable. And we need to find ways to head it off, but we need to find ways to allow it to strengthen us, strengthen our relationships, make things better, and not let it, be the end all be all, if that makes sense. We want to prevent it by communicating super well up front. When it happens, we want to hit it head on with much grace and respect. And I don't mean like literally hit it, but approach it, let them vent, et cetera, and work your way through it. And, really encourage engagement from the parents, engagement, connection, develop that relationship and rapport. So some kind of actionable steps for you on this: stay calm and professional, never match their emotion, never respond emotionally, listen to them and respond with confidence, educate and communicate constantly, set clear expectations from day one and keep the parents informed about what's going on. And, again, I've already kind of said it, but build relationships before there's a problem. Go through, smile at the parents, get them to smile back at you by saying hi, crack a silly joke, do things to connect. And so anyway, next time you face an upset parent or unhappy parent, remember it's an opportunity to educate, not to win an argument, stay firm, stay professional, and keep your school standards high, because it is going to happen. Inevitably, it's just the nature of operating a business, teaching people's children, et cetera. Those things are going to come up. So I hope you guys pick up some nuggets out of that and hope it was helpful. It was a tough one to talk about because I hate talking about the negative things. But if we handle that conflict, for lack of better words, better, it's really not negative. It's an opportunity to grow in respect, to grow in relationship, to grow in connection and trust for the long haul if we handle it professionally and with some grace and love. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Subscribe, give us some reviews, let us know what you'd like to hear about, and we are thankful for you. Have a good day. Thank you for tuning into the Team Chip Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget, subscribe, share, and or leave a review because we need you. We appreciate you so much. And without you, we can't make this happen. Remember, consistency is the key to success. So go out there and never be outworked.